Before we get into today's podcast, I wanted to tell you guys about PicDrop. PicDrop is an image transfer tool I've been using personally for over 5 years now. It's how I send all my photos to my clients, and I can create custom galleries online, which I can access on my laptop, mobile phone, on the go, where I can download files. It's just a really intuitive platform that was actually designed by photographers with photographers in mind. So they really understand what photographers need when they're delivering photos to clients. And they're constantly updating the platform with new tools and things you can use to just kind of streamline your workflow and make it easier when sending your photos to clients. They have a cool new scribble tool. So if you're working with a retoucher or a client, they can make notes on your photos and really just make it easy to communicate with your client and keep everything in one spot. I can't recommend it enough. It's just, for me, it's a lot better than some of the more outdated platforms like WeTransfer and Dropbox. It's just a very specific transfer tool for photographers in mind. So with today's podcast, with the promo code BANTER, you'll get 2 months free of PicDrop. All you got to do is go over to picdrop.com, enter the promo code BANTER, and you'll get 2 months free. So definitely go give it a try. Let me know what you guys think. And without further ado, we'll get into today's episode. Welcome back to the Photo Banter podcast. I'm your host, Alex Gagne, and on today's podcast, we got a real special episode. It's a photographer I've been excited to talk to for a long time, Bryan Schutmaat, amazing photographer based in Austin, Texas. He just recently published a new book titled Sons of the Living. It's a body of work that he worked on for over the past 10 years, documenting the American deserts and the Southwest, all the small towns, and just amazing portraiture and landscapes, this incredible documentation of the Southwest. So I was excited to get him on the podcast to talk to him about his new book, and as well as just kind of his approach to photography and portraiture. I've always just kind of resonated with Bryan's work. He has a real pure artistic approach to photography. He primarily works in 4x5 film, view camera, this kind of classic, amazing, strong portrait. So I'm really excited to get him on the podcast and talk to him about everything he's accomplished. He's done a lot. He's a Guggenheim Fellow. He's been published by Nat Geo, the New York Times, The Atlantic, and many, many more. And exhibited his work around the world. Just a really good guy and always working on interesting projects. So I was excited to get him on the podcast, and I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Thanks so much. All right, and now welcome on, long time coming, the Photo Banter's white whale, 4 years in the making, nonstop reaching out. I'm just kidding, Bryan Schutmaat. Excited to have you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I went through my Instagram. I was like, when was the first time I reached out to Bryan? It was 2021.
Oh, really?
So
That's not that long ago.
Yeah.
The talk I did here the other night, I was reminded that I was first asked to do it in 2019. So.
Oh, really?
It takes some time.
No, it was cool. And it's funny. We become like friends through text and shit last year. Yeah. So it's been cool and finally get to meet in person.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, you've been having a wild year. You had your new book come out, Sons of the Living, which came out, September?
I suppose that's when we released the pre-orders, and then they shipped in, I think, October or the beginning of November.
And you've been like nonstop. Like you were in Europe, then you got a show in California, now you're in New York. Yeah. Are you enjoying it? Are you burning out? Like, how are you feeling right now the last few months? Because you've been going.
All of the above. I'm definitely tired. And I told myself after Perry Photo, I would hibernate, but then more shit happened and you got to do stuff and move on. And
yeah.
So I haven't gotten the rest that I'd been hoping for.
Because even I was thinking, like, you spend all this time making the work and now you're out here kind of like, you know, you got a cool talk here at the, Penumbra? Where are we at right now? We're at
the Penumbra Foundation in the middle of New York. Yeah.
Really great place. It's a kind of a nonprofit. They do a bunch of photo classes here, and you did a talk here like 2 nights ago.
Was that? Yeah, 2 nights ago. Yeah.
How's that been? Like, you're on the road, you're meeting all these people, finally showing the work. Like, do you like interacting, kind of meeting people? And kind
I do. Yeah, it's really lovely to get a sense of the community and to hang out with people that, like now, people I've only known online, and then having this, and then in the Q&A, see people who look familiar, and then you say, "Oh, I know your work. That's great." And yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I tend to complain sometimes that photography is such a solitary thing. When you're out on the road or moving through the empty landscapes, you can feel a sense of loneliness, and then it gets rewarded later on, whenever you have the times like these where you get to like commune with people and hang out and talk about work and what matters.
Yeah, because you had I know because I was looking at some photos on your website of the work from the book. You had a big gallery show. I don't know if it was in Europe or I know you had one in LA, but there was like a huge gallery showing.
That was in Argentina. Yeah.
How'd that come all together? Because I'm excited to talk to you, man, because you're in these like photo worlds where I like fine art world galleries and shit.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of questions. Like, how do those like opportunities come about? Like, are you like planning it out like way far in advance because you know the book's coming out? Like, how does that all come together?
Just whatever comes down. And it sounds like a good opportunity. I'll say yes. That show in Argentina was a show of the black and white work from Sons of the Living, and it was under a different title at that time called Vessels. And on the other side of the gallery was color work, my first book, my first big project, Grays and Mountain Send. So it was this look at the West in color and in black and white, and it was called I wanted to call, in English it's the Darkling West, yeah. In Spanish it's Oeste Oscuro, yeah, Dark West. but yeah, that was in the end of 2019, right before 2020 when the world changed. But with the Sons of the Living work, I knew I wanted to make it a book ultimately, but I got variety of grant opportunities and exhibition opportunities. So I released a number of the pictures before I did the book. However, I did withhold a lot, maybe 2/3 of the body of work, so it would still look fresh whenever it came out.
It's like the trailer for a movie. Like you're like, yo,
that,
Mission Impossible is coming out in a year and a half.
Well, this one was a little longer than that, yeah. And I don't have the Hollywood money to make things move quickly. It's more of a very slow path.
And with those shows, are you doing all the printing yourself, or like how does that aspect of it work?
No, that one was all bills paid. They printed and framed everything. So I worked with a printer in Buenos Aires and made sure everything was really the highest quality it could be on the paper I like and using the Epson inks and whatnot.
That's cool. Yeah. And the book, because I think you worked on it for over 10 years, right? Like when did you start kind of making this work?
I guess the first picture I made for it was in 2014 and the last was in 2023. So that's a 10-year span. But I do like to remind people that it's not like I was working every day on it. So it was just a few weeks a year that I would actually be out in the field shooting and on the road making work. And then the rest of the time was the rest of life, editorial and commercial work, other art projects. I published 2 books between my first, well, maybe 3 if you count Islands of the Blessed. But there was just other things going on. So it was such a benefit to work that way because you could really take the photos and then distance yourself and the emotional memory you had of taking the pictures. And that's a real benefit whenever you're editing and trying to put together a book that has a meaning.
Yeah, because I think you said it was 154 days of shooting, right?
Yeah.
Did you like keep a journal like this is the days?
No, what I did is every time I'm on the road, I'll take digital pictures. I've never had a light mirror in my life. I just use a digital camera to kind of Polaroid, if you will.
Interesting. Yeah. Why is that used? Like not.
I just want to see what it looks like, and shooting on the film stocks I do, they're very forgiving, so you don't have to be that specific. I just always overexpose a little bit to make sure I have the shadow detail.
Yeah.
But anyway, in addition to the film photos I take, there will be a digital file along the way. So I added up all those digital files going all the way back to 2014.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So would you shoot when you're making the work? Was it always the same time of year you would go out on the road, or did you go like different seasons, or like how'd that work?
I really like the spring in the American West in the desert, which is where this work is set, because it's not too hot or too cold, and a lot of the vegetation hasn't grown back yet. So like a lot of the feeling of the tree, the leafless kind of trees here and there. But on the flip side, it's really windy in the desert in March. So some days I would just have to halt, like a rain delay for a ball game or something, because it was so windy, like the camera could take off like a kite. So I tended to like the spring and then the fall and winter. Yeah.
And it was, what states were you shooting in? It was like,
it's the kind of the breadth of the Southwest from Texas to California.
Okay.
But, once I start feeling greater LA, I'll turn back around and go back to the middle of nowhere.
And did you kind of like, when you first started this project, like, did you have a goal in mind what you were trying to capture? Did that kind of like change over time? Because like, that's the thing I'm interested in. Like, I think any photographer, you look at your work 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I feel like it can kind of change a lot. Do you feel like that happened with you in this process?
Yeah, to a large degree. But I knew moving forward, like I knew from the beginning that I wanted it to be in the desert. I knew I wanted to pick up hitchhikers. And I knew I wanted there to be themes of fossil fuel consumption and a sense of climate anxiety, if you will. So that was on my mind. And I knew I wanted to have certain motifs and really capture the size and the scale and the grandness of the desert as compared to human lives and these, just as we are as people moving through these landscapes, how small it can make us feel at times was important to me. So I had that in mind, like this connection between land and people. So I always knew I wanted to do that, but the work certainly evolved. I can't say exactly how, but I think photo projects always take their shape as you move along and as you discover new things, and you go out into the world, and then you look at the pictures, and then the pictures will inform you about your interests and about what you're really doing. So it's almost like channeling your unconscious or something whenever you're doing a body of work like this. Yeah.
And do you feel like the way, like, I guess more specifically to the portraits, like the way you kind of approach people and interact with them changed from like from the beginning to the end, or?
Not necessarily. Yeah, it's always the same approach. You just have to make small talk or tell people what you're up to, try to be kind and identify with people in one way or another. So that's stayed pretty much the same. And we were talking about Richard Rinaldi before the recording began, and he kind of taught me how to use a large format camera. I took a workshop with him here in New York, very long time ago. I mean, not that long ago, 2009. Yeah. And there was always a mystifying thing about approaching strangers, and he demystified everything. I just saw him, a regular guy, just going up to ordinary people and say, "Hey, I want to take your picture," or "I'm a photographer doing this." And he just said, it always comes down to kindness and honesty. So
yeah, and because a lot of the people you're photographing, they're kind of hitchhikers, kind of drifters.
Yeah.
Like, I guess, how do you approach that aspect of it? Because I talked to some other photographers before I was going to do this interview, and some people could look at it like, oh, you're photographing kind of down and out people.
Yeah.
And it could view it as like, oh, you're kind of showcasing someone like in hard times.
Yeah.
Like, how do you view showcasing these people in your work and like approaching them, I guess?
In terms of like an ethical sensibility?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Because it's like,
I mean, yeah, they're participants in this, and I asked them, and my camera in my presence was welcomed, and I did it with a heart full of love. So
yeah,
I don't think that there are any ethical shortcomings. And I will say that with photography, which I think of as a form of art or literature, there is a power to a photographic portrait that reflects human experience, and people can identify with that, and we relate to that. Sorrow, vulnerability, these are the things that are, I think, worth showing at times. And if you want to have like a power to your work or a narrative potential, it is about those things in life that aren't so easy sometimes. So if Homer only showed Odysseus in times of heroism and glory, then the Odyssey would not be a great book to read. We want to know what it is to be human on this earth.
You feel like there's anything you learned from like interacting with all these people over the years?
That's a good question. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure there is. Yeah. But like in terms of a specific thing, I couldn't say. I mean, I'm sure it has shaped me in a variety of ways, and certainly grateful for the experiences.
Because what do you think it is like you're looking for when you approach someone? Is it just like
it's a mystery. What I'm looking for in people. Like there are some people I want to photograph and some people I'm not interested in photographing. And that's so hard to say why. It's in physical appearance, obviously, because I'm looking at people and then saying, okay, that's someone I want to photograph. But yeah, I suppose like when it comes to what you were saying earlier about depicting hardship or the kind of people who are moving down the highways that I see, if I am at a truck stop in Holbrook, Arizona or something, and I see an affluent person filling up a Lexus with premium fuel at Shell versus a dude who's wearing a backpack and looked like he survived a tornado, like that's the guy whose stories I'm interested in. And I think we can learn more from him than the person who's going to make it to his destination comfortably. Yeah.
My favorite portrait is the guy. He's like sitting on the ground and he's like, he has like tan on his face, but from the hat, he's like deep tan, but then like his skin's like white. That was an incredible portrait.
Yeah, that's Jimmy. I picked him up in the Texas Panhandle and we drove all the way into New Mexico and we took that picture along the way at an abandoned gas station.
Oh yeah, that's the other element of it. You were picking up hitchhikers and you would kind of ride with them and for a while and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I wouldn't mention that I was a photographer till several miles down the road or more. Sometimes people were into having their photos taken. Sometimes they weren't, and that's fine too. Still give them a ride, of course.
That is interesting. It's a unique thing to the Southwest where that's more of a common thing. I feel like you're not really gonna see hitchhikers too much. I feel like out here, like we're in New York or even in Boston. Like I don't really see it. Like
it is odd.
Yeah,
maybe they're out there, but they're just less. It's less apparent because the population is denser, perhaps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the whole. It's not a tradition. When you go, I think people used to hitchhike a lot more.
Yeah,
and they don't do it as much. Yeah,
it's true. Yeah. And then in terms of like editing the book, like how did you approach that? Because it's like portraits, landscape. There's like some like detailed shots. Like how did you kind of approach editing? Because it's a big book, a really great book, and a lot of amazing photos in there.
Yeah. Thanks for your shout outs along the way, by the way.
What do you mean?
You mentioned it on a couple other pods, and I appreciate you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah. I told you, man, I really love your work, and just like, I admire it because you can tell like what you're doing. Like you're just shooting how you want to shoot.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes across to me. There's no like, you're not trying to like angle it into getting other work. Really, it's pure. And that's the thing that comes through to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, man. With the book edit, it's just starts with intuition about what pictures look good together. How do I put it?
Did you work with the editor or do you just do it all yourself?
No, I did it myself. Well, I did it. I mean, I showed some friends here and there, but mostly it's just me obsessing about things and really trying to find where the pictures had like, they kind of rhymed or they felt like puzzle pieces that work together. And this relates to, the content, of course, like the narrative possibility between a landscape and then a portrait and the next picture and then maybe a still life, or beyond just the content, it's the form and the shapes that may repeat or just a feeling. Once in time in grad school, I forgot who said it. One of my classmates said the pictures kind of have to smell the same. Yeah. So it's that, like, it really edit and sequence, I think, are so important in our age whenever we're confronted with the deluge of images, and every time you open your phone or your computer screen, it's like a fire hose of images that come at you. And now we have photo books that you can really define the edit and sequence and do something intentional and beautiful. And to me, photo books are like the savior of photographic meaning in our age. It's just a way to give the work significance whenever there are so many images in the world.
And did you always know from the beginning that it was going to be a mix of like portraits and landscapes and all the other kind of? Yeah,
I mean, there's such a legacy of work that was made in the American West, and I'm thinking of all the greats, but like trying to really put those in intimate portraits alongside these big Ansel Adams kind of landscapes or Robert Adams kind of work. It was important to me, and then I was always thinking about Richard Avedon's in the American West too, because that's the epic, photo portrait project of the American West, but he didn't do landscapes or put people within those settings. So to think of those epic landscapes like Mark Rudell and Richard Misrak, Robert Adams, and then mixing that with a real intimate portraiture was always a goal of mine, which I had done in my first book, but not in black and white, not with this kind of ambition, I'd say.
And when you're like more in terms of the portraits, when you're photographing these people, like I'm sure it varies, but like how much time were you spending with them to make the portrait? Like how much direction do you give them?
Yeah.
Are you shooting a ton of film? Like what's kind of your process look like generally?
Oh, it varies from like 3 minutes to 3 days. Yeah, it really depends on what the person I meet is willing to offer. Um, Sometimes it would be, hey, I'm a photographer working on a project. Here's some pictures I took. Can I make some portraits of you? I think they'd be great. And then they say, yeah. And then you have 5 minutes and then they want to move down the road. And that's totally understandable and cool. Then there's other times you meet people who, hey man, I need a ride to like Oklahoma City or whatever. So we'll go down the road for quite a while and maybe along the way stop and make pictures and collaborate a little bit more. So it varies from minutes to days. And in terms of how much film I shoot, that varies from one to like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that with some people I probably shot over 20 sheets. I'd say,
Okay.
yeah. And in my first book, when I was young, I would always be very economic and think about conservation of resources. So if I was meeting someone and taking a portrait, I'd pay maybe 2 or 3 sheets of film. And as I committed to photography and made it into my work in life, I got more comfortable with spending more money on film and taking more pictures. And if there was someone who's really interesting, I'd take north of 10 pictures, all that film. So
Nice. What do you like about the 4x5 camera and film? Because that's primarily how you work, right?
yeah. I think it's the optics of the vintage lens I use. It's really important to me. I want to be cliche right now and say that it's the slowness of the process or the whatever. But if I could take the pictures I want to take on a little camera that had the same aesthetic integrity, I would, but I can't. It's just like the cameras, the digital cameras can't do what the analog can at this point, in my opinion. And then the last thing is that the tool itself, in terms of the social interactions, is very disarming. It's beautiful. It's got bellows and an old lens and the wood on the edges, and I think that can convince people I'm working with that what I want to do is going to be something that has a weight to it, and I feel like the tool and its presence just offers me. I get offered more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I'm like, people probably annoyed about me talking about this now, but like, I was getting back into my Hasselblad. Like, I grew up shooting film, and then like somewhere along the line, you switch to digital because it's like work and you kind of get used to the convenience. But now I'm like fully back on the Hasselblad train. Yeah. It's more of like this, like obviously the look and the experience, and even just like, I don't know, like the way film like renders skin and stuff. It's just way different than digital. It's just like
especially with color too. You shoot color a lot.
Yeah, color and black and white, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think that a color digital sensor can do what Kodak Portrait can do. When it can, I'll be happy to shoot it. But until then, for color, I really think that color film is the way to go for my work. And then with black and white, for landscape, sometimes I think I can get it to look pretty terrific on a digital camera.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I use a lot of film that I didn't need to.
Oh, really?
Like a big landscape, you shoot it, high aperture isn't that much different. But I want the tones to match and everything, and for it to feel the same. But,
yeah. I love the landscapes you did. Like it's like long exposures of the cars driving through the windy. Yeah. How much time did it take you to like get that shot like perfectly done?
It was so I did that as an experiment really early on in the project. Just seeing these headlights going across the highway in the distance on this big sage flat, and I got the photo back, and it had this meaning to me. It was like a human presence in this eternal emptiness. And then I took that to to places where the geology was even more impressive, and throughout the deserts. And it just became this symbol for me of a human presence in a world that's kind of cold and empty.
Yeah.
So to me, it had this really metaphoric value. And then just from a technical standpoint, you had to be the right highway, because I started on the big highway. It's like I-10 and I-40, where there's some beautiful overlooks, but there were too many headlights. It didn't look right. And if you're too close, it looks like it's just some country road that people aren't actually traveling on. So you kind of had to find the right ones in terms of the feeling of the body of work. And then it couldn't be too dark, and it couldn't be too light. You have to find it like well after the sun goes down, but not nighttime. And then the exposures ranged from, I don't know, maybe 2 minutes to 10 minutes. I'm not sure.
Wow.
I can't remember, but yeah, getting it right was kind of tough.
That's how I figured, because it was such a cool shot. I really loved it. And then there's like another shot that I felt it stuck out to me over all the other pictures. It was the photo of like the land with all the tires.
Yeah.
It's just like this. Where was that? Like, what is it? It's just
okay. So that one, I was asked this the other night about what I do in terms of planning photographs versus just finding them. And usually it's the case that I just find things. I just wander around. My process is not efficient at all. I don't plan shit well. But that one I saw on Google Maps. It was just a big like black stain on the landscape.
Yeah.
What the fuck is this? And I did more research and looked into it. It was a tire dump. Yeah. And I think it was it was operating, and there was security the first time I went by, and I just felt sketched out by it. But I kind of kept it in the doc that I kind of look at where I have links or things I want to revisit. And I researched it again, and I think it got transformed into not a tire dump, but like a tire recycling place. So they'll turn that sort of all those tires into like children's tiles for their playgrounds.
Oh yeah.
And then whenever it went to that, then all of a sudden like the security wasn't there. So I just drove up and got that shot.
What do you think like interested you about it? Just the visual of it pretty much, or what?
I mean, the visual is astonishing.
Yeah.
And the record of consumption in the American economy is staggering. And to think that that's just this perpetual thing that we have committed to in terms of our use of cars and fossil fuel economy is just, I mean, it's depressing, but also the reality of our culture. So I wanted to highlight all that and tie it to the other concerns I had socially and politically, but also just like human beings and how we interact with nature and what that means and how long that's been going on.
Have you always thought about that? Like, because like you mentioned the environment a lot about in your work. Like, when did you kind of start like thinking about that more? Like, where did that come from? Like,
I think I actually thought about it more at the beginning and less at the end. Even though we're headed toward a future that seems, increasingly more unsustainable. But at the beginning, I was really interested in showing all of the wounds of the landscape and all the neglect or the decay or the irresponsible land use or whatever it may be. And then as I got more interested in the human element, I was also looking for access to hope and landscapes that weren't as desecrated, I suppose. Yeah.
Are you like a glass half full or glass half empty guy? Are you optimistic for the future, or
no,
are we this
not at all.
fucked?
No, I'm not optimistic, and I'm not. If we learn anything from history, you can't be too optimistic. And I don't know if I'm straight up cynical, and I do believe in, humans' capacity for love and goodness. But no, I don't think that we have a really viable path moving forward for our species.
Yeah.
But let's.
We
can go there if you want to.
No, I mean, honestly, I try to I have these days where it's just like, oh man, it's going bad. And then I just try to ration, all right, do the best you can today, treat people nice and do what you can. And I don't know, it's going to play out how it's going to play out. And all you can do is, kind of control what you can do a little bit. And that's how I kind of not lose my mind.
Totally. Yeah. I just think you have to make good shit and just do what you can.
Mm-hmm.
And also remember that this has always been the human condition. If you open up any history book, it's warfare and strife and agony, and people have always shown up and tried to push toward a better world. And I guess our roles as photographers is to put things into the world that make it better.
No, definitely. I like that. And you mentioned a little bit, I'm sure people will be interested about this part of the work. You had a Guggenheim Fellowship, and then I think it was also you had another one with like the Aaron Siskin Foundation to kind of help with this project.
Yep.
Like, did you have that from the beginning, or did that kind of happen like midway through the project? And like,
the Aaron Siskin Fellowship came about 2 years in.
Yeah.
And then the Guggenheim came about 6 years in. Yeah.
What does that process look like? Like applying for a Guggenheim Fellowship? Is it something? Have you like applied to a lot of these things? Like, what's that process look like?
Yeah, it's just seeing what's out there and what kind of money you can get for it, and then putting together the portfolio that is representative of the broader body of work that you think are the bangers, I suppose. And then writing something that's very cogent and letting the I guess the board who's deciding know that you really mean business. So yeah, and then some of them I think the Guggenheim for sure required letters of recommendation, but it's all kind of a mystery. You don't know to what degree each one of the requirements has in terms of the weight of the application or whatever. But I just think it's about the work at the end of the day, just showing your best work. But I could be wrong. Yeah.
How do you approach the writing aspect? Do you feel like that's something you're good at, or like how do you approach like?
Oh, this is another opportunity for me to relay the advice of someone who did it before me and better than me. But my friend Peter Brown, he's a photographer from Texas who's done a lot of work on the plains, and I think I came to him one time, kind of lamenting the fact that it was difficult to write an artist statement, and you didn't want to sound too art speaky, you didn't want to sound too just straightforward, and he kind of mentioned to err on the side of straightforward and said, just tell them what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Just tell them what you're doing. Yeah.
I always hate that at gallery shows when they have, when you first walk in, they'll have like a write-up about the project. Yeah. But sometimes this is like a little over the top for me. It's like,
totally.
It's just like, all right.
Yeah. There's a real, I don't know. Like there's almost like a lack of respect that I think some texts have for a viewer.
Yeah.
Where it over explains or
there's like an arrogance to it. Like I don't know.
Or whenever it tries to persuade you that the work is doing something that it's not doing. Yeah. Is whenever I'm like, come the fuck on. Yeah.
Also, it's like we're photographers. Why the fuck are we writing? We're taking pictures.
Yeah. No, I mean it's two different muscles for sure. To exercise. And I try to leave words out of my work to a large degree. I mean, if you notice in the book, there's just one little piece of text that's kind of a poetic.
Did you write gesture. That, or is that?
No, my friend Travis Klunick wrote that. Yeah, and he's a writer from the Missioner program at UT. He's one of my best friends, and he had spent a lot of time on the road with me. And before that, he was a long haul truck driver for a little while. So he's had this road experience, and he knows it as good as anyone, I'd say. And he just wrote that, and he's been working on a novella, and I think we took that from it and just kind of had that little piece in there to demonstrate, I don't know, just a sense of just a sense of poetry at the end.
No, it was great. Yeah. I guess go back, man. Like, where did you grow up, and like, how do you kind of initially get into photography?
Grew up outside Houston, Texas, and initially got into photography. I had some, my older sister took photo courses in high school, and I had a girlfriend who did photography, and I finally took a class in college. So I would say that whenever I took my first like photo 1 course is when I got introduced to it, but I didn't know it was going to be my passion. I just took it. And then I was touring with punk bands at the time, documented life on the road, fell in love with the landscapes we were driving through, and that just unique experience. And that also coincided with a time in my life when I started to get more into cinema and like really comprehending the cinematography of those films and how powerful it could be. And, I knew that I could not be, the next Kubrick or whatever, but I could take these pictures on the road. And
You could be if you want.
maybe, yeah, maybe not though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, photography in terms of its ease, it was so attractive.
Because what did you go to school for photography, or you say you're in college?
Oh yeah. So I got a history degree in my undergrad, although I did take a couple semesters at an art school called Watkins in Nashville,
Okay.
like 20 years ago, 2004 and 5. Shit, man.
We're getting old, man.
Dude, we're not as young as we used to be.
I hit 40 this year.
40?
Yeah.
You look great.
Thanks.
You've held on to your youth, sir.
Thank you.
What am I saying here? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, no, I thought I was going to do photography, but then whenever I quit art school and I got a history degree, I thought I was going to be a teacher, and then I was still doing music, and I was 25. I didn't know who I was or what I was doing. And then I decided to apply to grad school because my work by that time had gotten like in these smaller exhibitions in Europe and other places. And,
What kind of work were you making?
it was like, it was still road trip sort of stuff, but there was like more, it was color 2.25. Looked like Stephen Shore kind of stuff. And
Was that like some of your early inspirations?
totally. Yeah. And then it was mixed with like pictures of my girlfriend at the time. And it was not good.
Hey, that's part of the journey, man.
Yeah. My first crit at grad school, I had it all up and I was like hoping people would like it. Alex Oath was there. He didn't like it. Yeah.
Oh, really?
No, he liked it a little bit. No, he didn't. Yeah.
Everyone's got it. But I feel like that's the thing. It took me a while to realize this. Like, not everyone's gonna like your work, and nor should they. Like,
no, yeah, of course.
Like, it's like I like this. Like, you probably like photographers I'm not interested in, and so back and forth. Whatever, movies, music, anything. There's a taste for everyone.
Yeah, and it's not even. I mean, I see a lot of work these days because there's so much work these days, and some of it's bad, but most of it, the worst I can say is that it just doesn't interest me.
Mm-hmm.
With how much the sheer volume of everything these days. The work I don't like is just work that doesn't interest me. And that doesn't mean I don't respect it.
It's not for you.
Yeah. It's just like there's only so much time on the earth, so I'm not going to pay attention or maybe give what would be adequate for like the appreciation or comprehension of something. The work that I don't want to do the work for. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, I feel like there's something for everybody. Yeah, it's fine. It's a big world. Life's long. So.
Do you feel like do you ever feel like competitive, like when you got into this, like you want to like do this thing, like do you feel that at all? Like not really. It's just more just personal satisfaction. Always.
Well, it's a funny thing, man.
Because we all have these like dreams. Like you published a book and like you've had your work in like Pier 24 and these amazing galleries and had a Guggenheim Fellowship.
Yeah, like, I mean, all the things whenever I began that I kind of hoped for, it's happened. So in that way, I feel really lucky and happy. But then again, as you work so hard for it, by the time you get it, it feels kind of earned. So it's not as I don't know what, but no, I don't feel a sense of competition. Because why? But I do. I mean, the kind of creative life is. I didn't say this. Someone else said this. It was like thinking it's like this oscillation between crippling self-doubt and then feeling like you're better than everybody else, where it's like, fuck, like I'm not making good stuff. This sucks. But then you go and look at other work and you say, I'm so much better than this. Like the stuff that might be getting recognition that you think is overvalued I don't know what. Yeah.
Because where do you feel now? Like you spent so much time on this project, you published a book. Now it's like, what are you gonna do next? Do you feel like? Because I felt like that after projects before. I feel like kind of lost. Like I did it. Yeah. Now it's like, what do I do now?
Yeah. Well, Sally Mann has advice for artists, and that is to have a project going before you end your other one. So I have some other like back burner projects that I'm gonna pick up.
That's good.
And then. Those I'll maybe, crank up the volume on in the years moving forward. So, working on some photos on the Great Plains that relates to themes that I've previously touched on in my work. So, yeah, I got places to go, but it's still pretty far from any shape or form that I would say is in any way nearing where it needs to be.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And what did you do when you got out of college? Like, because I think that's the thing. That's the thing that I even be like talking to so many people. It's like, yeah, you've done all this amazing stuff. You've found success. You've been able to make the career of it. But like the beginning, when no one knows who you are, like, how do you make it work? Like, what are those early days? You're getting out of school. Like, did you have any job? Did you ever assist? Did you just go straight into shooting? Or like, what does that journey look like? The beginning of it, I guess, for you.
Yeah, I can only speak to my experiences because everyone's road's going to be different. And there's no path that is tried and true or like something that can be duplicated. I got out of grad school. I moved here to New York. I lived in Gowanus. I worked as an art handler for a gallery, and I started assisting Mark Mahaney.
Really? That's funny.
Yeah.
What was it like working with him? I love Mark. He's an interesting guy, man.
He's like one of my best friends in the world, and I can't say enough good things about him. And working for him taught me a lot about consistency, commitment, passion. And I really loved his like concentration and how meticulous he was. We would be on shoots for a commercial or editorial client that 99 out of 100 photographers would have already been packed up and the taillights would be on, and he'd still be trying to get something right. And that's why he has the career he has. But yeah, like he was in a really nice headspace. It was funny. When I got my first assignment for the New York Times Magazine, I assisted him, but we had become buds, and it was like opposite day. He assisted me. And I was so nervous. I was just like kind of, fiddling around, and like you could sense it in my demeanor. And Mark, on the other hand, in his shoots, even if they're really high pressure, would always be, hands not shaking, just really smooth sailing. So that's something I tried to learn from him. But even now, like even in my art shit, it's like I don't think I'm an anxious person, but I do. I get excited and I want to get things right. And I think that there's a little bit of jitters, even if it's like I'm on the side of the road and no one's around and I see a landscape I really love, or I'm with a portrait subject that I think is amazing. The pressure to get that right kind of jostles me a little bit. Yeah.
I think that just means you care because you know that as a photographer, like great pictures, they don't just pop up every day. So when you at least that's how I think. Like when it comes to you're like, oh damn, like here it is. It's like I found it, and you don't want to mess it up.
Yeah, and also with my ratio of pictures that I actually like really try to get, great pictures don't pop up every day. In addition, when they do pop up, I might not be prepared to get them. Not just because I'm not in the right place or whatever, but because I don't have the courage to go approach somebody or whatever it might be. So I've seen more photos that are excellent pass by before my eyes that I did not click the shutter for than I did actually achieve.
Oh yeah, and because it's a lot, you're just a human like anyone else. You have good days, bad days. You can be exhausted. Like your mind's not like there's so much involved with like all that. Yeah.
You can think of photo opportunities like pitches. It's like a lot of them get away. A lot of time you strike out. What's the batting average for a good photographer, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be that high. You can miss a lot, but whenever you do make contact, it's got to be great. So, it's just, I think it's all forgiven in a way if you put in enough time.
Yeah.
Because even if you miss shit, if you continue to put time in, then you'll get it eventually. Yeah.
That's great. And I have to mention one thing. We were talking about Mark, incredible photographer. I've done almost 300 of these interviews. Mark is the only person to show up to the interview with like 5 pages of notes.
No shit.
I was so impressed. I was like, bro.
Was he referencing them as you were talking?
I don't know. Yeah, I think not much. The conversation went, but he prepared. I was just like, and it shows like that's who he is as a photographer. His work is just like and he talked about an interview.
Well, I made a book with him too.
Which one? Oh,
I published Polar Night. Well, my Cody Hall, Tom, Matthew Gentempo, and I run Trespasser, making a book with him was an experience too because he was very thorough and wanted all the text just right and the printing just right. So he was he brought that level of care and that meticulous quality to everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Trespasser Books, which, how long have you guys been doing it for?
We did the first one in 2017. It was my book, Good Goddamn. So what is that? Almost 8 years?
Yep.
Yeah, 8 years.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
So it's, yeah, you said, so it's you, Matthew, Mark.
No, Mark isn't part of Trespasser.
Oh, Mark's not?
we published a book with him. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your goal with Trespasser, and like, I guess, how did it kind of all come together, I guess?
I had done my first book it felt ambitious. It felt like something novelistic, I suppose, like in terms of its like length and its subject matter. And then I did a book of archival photos, and then I did this short book called Good Goddamn that only has like 25 photos in it, and I shot it over the course of 5 days, I can't remember. And it felt like just more of a short story or a short essay, and I didn't want to have it on the same publisher and have people mistake that it was like this follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wanted to make a DIY publication that felt something like a zine. Good Goddamn is digitally offset printed instead of traditionally offset printed. It's bound by staples. It has like handwriting all over it and stuff. So I felt it would have a better home with a self-published kind of vibe. So Trespasser was something that Matthew and Cody and I just started as a more or less an alias to self-publish. And then we put out Good Goddamn, sold out 2 editions. Then our buddy Garrett wanted to put out a book, and we said, sure, why not? If you have the money to do it. We have this website, we have an audience we've built from the first couple titles, so let's just do this. And it's grown, but not too much. We also want to keep it really contained. We're not interested in competing with any of the big names in established art publishing.
I think that's what's cool about it. It's like very well curated. You guys make beautiful books. The paper is really nice. Because like you obviously, you guys do your own books with them, but then you have other photographers. Like, how do you guys decide like when you're gonna publish someone else's book? Like, what's that process?
Just
like?
When something nags at you that's like really good, and there have been some books we've published that we have advocated for and pitched to other publishers we're friendly with. Mm-hmm. And, for whatever reason, certainly not because of lack of quality in the work, but for scheduling or just whatever it might be, it didn't happen. And those are the books where it's like you feel called upon to publish them because it's amazing work that needs to be in the world. So it's that sort of thing. But I don't know. Let's see.
Do you guys get a lot of people like this submitting projects trying to get published?
Oh, yeah. We get more emails. We're submissions and sales, probably. Yeah. Not really, but yeah, it's nuts. But let's see. Emiliano's book is a book called Paraíso. We met him at a conference. Abigail Varney, we did her book, and I met her at a workshop in Australia that I taught. And I guess Trespasser just hadn't been along that long whenever I met her. But I didn't want to publish her book, but I wanted her book to be published. Mm-hmm. And then it was kind of, I guess, I would check in with her, and that she still hadn't secured a deal. And I said, let's do it. Let's do it with Trespasser. And then there's other work that's just like Agnieszka Sosnowska's book. We did hers last year. That was just so good. I just wanted to do it. Yeah, it was just like, yeah.
I mean, it's cool. Like you guys have built your own thing, and like, I mean, it's got to be a pretty cool feeling because I mean, I think you sold out of your book, like the new one, like pretty quick. Like,
yeah, when Matthew and I do books, they sell pretty good.
Yeah, so I actually went on eBay last night. I was like, yo, let me see what the aftermarket is for this. Some like $500 they're going for it now.
Yeah, are people buying that though?
I don't know. Like they're posted, yeah.
I think that's like speculation.
Still got me. It's got. I mean, honestly, it's like, how does that feel? Like you had. I was talking to Leandro here, and your talk the other night was at the capacity. They couldn't let more people. They saw your book, like. Mm-hmm. How does that feel as a photographer to like get to that point? Like obviously, like a lot of people get to experience that, man.
Yeah, no, I'm humbled by it. Like, what was I talking about? It's just having issues and stuff. Like, I guess you have to like, what's the word? Where you where like I'm feeling negative about something in a day, and I'm like, oh, I got too many things I got to do.
Yeah.
And then maybe friends alongside me will be like, hey, dude, you should be happy because like you're too busy. Most people aren't busy enough or whatever. So,
yeah, man. I remember I talked to you a couple months ago. Yeah, like, yeah, it is a grind, and you're doing it like out in Europe and have these amazing opportunities. Yeah. It's like pretty incredible to, but you did the work, like, because did you ever doubt yourself, like pursuing this as like your career, and like, do you ever feel like an outsider in this world at all? Because I feel like that sometimes. So even like some of the stuff you've gotten to do, like Pier 24 and like the Guggenheim stuff, I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, that's for like a special group of people or something. Yeah. Or did you always just have a confidence in yourself? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, how do I put it? No. I always wanted it.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah. And, the imposter syndrome kind of thing is something a lot of people feel. And I think if I was in another field, I'd probably feel that. But with photography, I just love it enough and know enough about it that I feel all right. Yeah.
And I feel like you've been talking about like you're a part of the community, and you feel like that's part of like doing workshops and interacting with people, and like, is that like, do you think about it that way? Like working with galleries and trying to get your work out there? Are you like active about like, I don't know, not the word networking, but like building these relationships to be able to do these type of things?
Look, man, I think the most important thing in life is human connection. Mm-hmm. Like what could be more important than that? Like we have that with our families and with our friends, and then we can have that in our professional lives too. And when I can connect with people talking about photography in a workshop or doing a lecture and meeting people who are passionate about what they're doing and passionate about what I'm doing, it just makes life so much better. Yeah. So were we recording when I was talking about how lonely photography would be, or was that before we began?
I think you might have mentioned that. I forget.
Anyway, photography can be really lonely, and then you get the reward of maybe all that time on the road whenever you get to meet with people who love photography and you get to talk about it. So for me, that's like really important. And in addition to like the photo community, it's the people you meet and photograph too. Like that can be, those experiences are so powerful to me and profound at times. And that's why I like to photograph ordinary people that have really interesting stories. I'm not a great, in the commission world, I'm not good with like the celebrity kind of stuff. I mean, I'll do it. I'd be happy to, but whenever someone's like, oh, you get 5 minutes with a really important person, you're not going to get any human connection to me. Mm-hmm. That doesn't interest me at all. Yeah. I'd like to have a picture of important people, but human interaction, these things,
the experience.
Like that. I want to talk to people and learn about them and riff with them and shit. Like, I don't want to just go click the shutter and be done with it. So some of those shoots, just kind of leave me cold, I suppose. And I'd rather like sit down with just an interesting person I meet in some small town, or if it is a commission, it'll be someone who's really generous with their time. Like Richard Powers, for instance, the novelist. I got to visit his home and all of the spaces that he hangs out in throughout the national forest, and that was just amazing. This is a guy who's like an actual genius. Just sharing his life with me and asking me questions. And to me, that's a wonderful thing about photography too. It's this thing that connects people. Without the camera there, sure, you could get to know someone, but it's such a good pretext for human connection. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's the main reason I started this, because it's just I love connecting with people, because it's like there's people who love photography, and then there's like it's our whole fucking life. Like it's like a niche, like the people that are like in it the way we're in it and stuff like that. So it's like when you get to connect with people that are like enjoy it the same way you do.
It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, just to reiterate, I mean, we're talking here about photography. Yeah. I mean, it's like that's like human beings connect through this. And the more I travel and I can run into people, and like I feel like I could kind of grab a drink or get a meal with people all over the world just because we both love the same thing. And I think that should be really appreciated.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And with this other thing I was interested about, like obviously you're represented by different galleries. You show your work in like fine art galleries, but then you also do like commercial and editorial. Is like commercial editorials, that like frowned upon by galleries and stuff? Like, cause I know some kind of quote unquote fine art, they won't even show their like commercial work and stuff like that. Like, how do you kind of think about those two worlds? And I guess, or if you do, I don't know.
I mean, we all got to get by. I was at the Rijksmuseum. Two of my pieces are in a big American Survey show. And it was an interesting show because it wasn't just the fine art hits, you know, it wasn't just like the pictures you'd expect to be. It also showed all these like magazine work to show the juxtaposition between the realities of the world and this and that. But as I'm going through this exhibition, I come across these images that were made by Russell Lee and Walker Evans that were commissioned by the government and then used more or less as propaganda for the war, which means that even these people who committed their lives in such a with such integrity do things to show to the public and to get paid for it. And I don't think there's anything to frown upon with a photographer who wants to be an art photographer doing commissioned work.
Yeah,
I mean, we have to all get by and float on by and get paid. And yeah, I really, it rubs me the wrong way when there are photographers that act like they're
I never understood that. Like,
yeah.
It's like, it's embarrassing to have a job. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, of course. And so many of these people come from money.
Yeah.
And like they can really maintain a focus on fine art photography with a capital A in art and go to the best school. And then they frown upon people who come from a different walk of life who might have to go take some newspaper assignment or this or that to get that few $100 to keep going forward. It's never made sense to me to look down on photographers for doing what they got to do.
Yeah, because the work's good. The work's good. I love seeing your like assignment work stuff because it's like so much your work with the Trespasser stuff. It's all personal work, which is great. I love that too. Yeah. But it's cool to see like, you got the photograph of, like Leon Bridges like early on.
It's fun. And that dude's so sweet. Like he's like, that's what a joy to like hang out with another, just
artist.
Just an artist, a Texan dude with such a beautiful voice. So humble, so rad. So I love those experiences. Yeah.
I saw you photograph Warren Buffett.
That was one of the really quick ones. Yeah. Okay. I walked in. He's like, "Make me look like Clooney, George Clooney."
That's good. At least you had to get
but it was like I was there for 7 minutes. The funny, I won't go there. I was talking about like how lax the security was at this building. It's like, we're here to photograph Warren Buffett. It's like, okay, just go up to like the 11th floor. Do I need to get any of my bags checked through a radar, like an X-ray or whatever? It's like, nah, he'll be up there sometime. This guy's worth $100 million or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, maybe I shouldn't spread the fact that the Omaha building that he works out of is very poorly secure. But yeah, I mean, it also with editorial and commercial work, it can lead you to experiences you never thought you'd have otherwise too. Where it's like, I get to hang out with a novelist one day or a singer the next or an athlete the other or whatever. Like these, if they give you time, you can get something from it. That's great. It's the times whenever you really feel like there's a contingent of PR people who are not letting you do anything is whenever it sucks.
Yeah. I've had assignments that turned into like personal projects that I kind of pursued farther before, which was kind of cool aspect of it because that's the thing about assignment stuff. You get to meet people you normally probably wouldn't run into in life a little bit.
Totally. I've stayed friends with some of these people. Like I got a good buddy in Colorado, this like crazy cowboy dude named Tim. I photographed him for Smithsonian in 2014 or 15. Mm-hmm. If I'm driving through Colorado, I always have a place in the mountains where I can stay. He's nuts. It's so cool. Love this dude. So that's just a benefit in life. And then with some assignment work where it's real kind of carte blanche in terms of what the editors are telling you to do, you can get all kinds of great shit. Like for an art practice. Like I did a show in Amsterdam called Living Dry. There was photos from an assignment I did for National Geographic that were kind of re-edited and recontextualized.
Oh, is that the Big Ben project?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that project was great. It was editorial, but it was like, this looked like it could have just been like your personal project. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the National Geographic did publish some of those, and there's other ones that weren't right for the magazine, and I totally understand why, that I took anyway. So and the National Geographic paid for my film, and then they give you the rights to it after the embargo's over. So that's terrific. And I met all these great people. I mean, even on that trip too, we hired a river guide named Matt, who's now a buddy of mine, and we're gonna maybe do a trip in Alaska. Like this is photography opening doors. It's a good way to live.
Yeah, for sure. How is it working with Nat Geo? Because I've heard from people that like working with them is a little different than most magazines. It's more of like a collaborative thing, and it's like more. A lot of assignments are more like long term, not so much like quick turnaround.
No. That like they really are very thorough, and you have a lot of conversations with the editor, and you're not just going to go photograph something for a couple days and come back. They want you to really spend some time on it and think about it, and they'll pay for those days. They paid for research days where it's like, oh, I don't know enough about this, and then they'll say, well, we'll give you your day rate to just like research on the internet and stuff.
That's sick.
That's cool. And then that being said, their protocol with like all the filing is kind of a lot. You have to send everything in. They like label all the different film sheets. They give it back to you, but it's weird to like send your film off to.
They scanned it for you and all that, or no?
No, I think I scanned it.
Yeah,
I forgot how it worked.
That's right.
But they needed it for it was like it belonged to them for a little while, and then comes back to you. But like every file you take is labeled with like the assignments code, and then that's a little what's it called? You feel like you're
tedious. It's just
tedious, and it's also like I feel pretty confident about making an edit for clients and showing them what they should see.
Yeah.
But the photo editors at Nat Geo are so serious about their jobs that they want to see everything, even like So that can be a little daunting. Like sending like all the bad ones.
This is trash, man.
And I'm not. Yeah, maybe I could have deleted it and reorganized the numbers or something. But no, it's like you just send them what you send them.
Yeah, and then how is it working with Claxton Projects? I know they're no longer around. I think the owner retired or whatever. But it was an amazing group of photographers. It was a commercial rep. It was like who was it? It was like you, Mark, Sasha. A bunch of amazing photographers.
I have to look it up. Yeah, Raheem. I can't remember who else. I should know this really well, but I can't. But yeah, no. I mean, I'd known Tom for a long time. He reached out to me even before my first book was published, just to send a note of saying I think you're doing good work. And we kept in touch for the longest time. And then when he started his agency in 2017 or so, he wanted me on board. And we did a lot of great work together, but he just I think got worn out with it, and I think he's going to live a much more peaceful life.
For real.
Yeah. Whenever he told me he was going to quit and shut down the agency, I was like, man, this is going to be a big financial hit for me, but I'm really, really happy for you. Yeah, because it's a stressful thing to like coordinate all these different shoots and to do all the contracts. But I will say that in my position as someone who's comes from the more art documentary kind of side of things, to have him go up to bat for me and to figure out how you could maximize income and that sort of thing was really helpful, because he could simply do things that I could not do. And that's the same thing for the galleries too. Like art dealers, a lot of people will, I don't know, be surprised to hear that if you sell a print, 50% of it goes to a gallery, but they're just so good at like convincing museums or wealthy people to fork over a lot of money for a lot of prints. So
yeah, because you have, I look at your website, because like I said, I don't know a lot about that world. Like you have like, I think 4 different, you have like one in Amsterdam, one in Germany.
Yeah, LA and New York, yeah.
Like how does, like, can you can you have like unlimited galleries?
No,
it's like.
You have to kind of curate who's selling your work. If you get too many, I think it's not a good look. But before the internet, I think it was regional agreements. So if you had a gallery on the West Coast, you'd probably like limit it to one. Gallery on the East Coast in New York, limit it to one, and then Europe. Now with the internet, it's more of a moot point because people can discover work online and reach out to galleries anywhere. I thought it was funny in Paris. We like sold a print to a Texan. like I live there, dude. Like, yeah, but he was wealthy. He's like, yeah, but I like this frame a lot. And it's like, you're gonna spend like an extra how much money?
Oh yeah, because can you still sell prints directly, or it not really now? Because it has to go through them essentially.
It's preferred that it goes through galleries, but if it's like a close friend in my orbit, I can make a sale or whatever. Yeah.
And like, how do you know like when you're gonna sign with the gallery? Like what is there something you're looking for? Is it this kind of a feel thing with the person? Like.
Yeah, you just got to mesh with them. I mean, it's you have to like what they're doing. You have to appreciate the other artists they represent. You want to be part of a team that is representative of the work you like and the kind of culture that you admire. So to me, it was like Walter van Leeuwen in Amsterdam loves American photography, and he was representing amazing photographers I already looked up to. So that one was cool, and he's really nice. And Sasha, I've been working with her the longest, and again, she represented great artists, had a good reputation. We were put in touch by Leslie from Aperture, so there's this level of trust and just an understanding that it was going to be a good fit. Yeah, same with Doug and Misha in Berlin. I've known for years. So yeah, to me, it's just about like surrounding yourself with good people that have good taste and that are in line with your values and your style, I suppose.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Did you go to I went to Berlin like 2 years ago. Did you ever go to that Fotografiska gallery in Berlin?
No, I don't know.
There's like a chain of them. There's one, I think there's one in New York, or there was. I think it moved, but it's like they're like these new galleries that open up. They're like a couple different other countries, but it's like a different vibe. Like it's like they have like a bar, and then they light it all. I'll show you some pictures. It's pretty wild. They had a big one in Berlin. It was pretty cool.
Berlin is the CEO gallery is a really nice one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Couple more questions. I'll let you go. You did a book called Island of the Blessed, which you edited with, it was Ashleen Davis and yourself.
Yeah.
Interesting concept because it's not your photographs. It was like photos sourced from like the Library of Congress and I think was it the United States Geological Survey.
Yeah.
Like how did that project come together? Like,
oof, yeah, that was 10 years ago. No, 11. Yeah, I was going to do a show in Portland, and the gallery was really big, and I didn't want to print all of my pictures and have to pay for everything. So I wanted to borrow old photos to have like a montage of the history of the West unfolding before you got to the contemporary images of the West. But it was going to be way too expensive to borrow pictures and this and that. So I said, let's just like get the ones that don't have copyright on the internet. Library of Congress, the geological surveys, and then we just do inkjet prints of these and still have the thing. Turned out I've got the money to print everything in color, so it all worked out. But my mind was still with all of these old photos that were astonishing. I mean, there are so many photos on the databases and in the National Archives that don't have copyrights, that were made by photographers who were hired by the federal government to show this wilderness to people and to show this industry and to show its transformation before astonished eyes. And that just really resonated with me. And I worked with Ashleen Davis, a photo researcher, then turned gallerist, and just photo world person, photo land person in general. And we worked for countless hours.
This search in the internet, because it
was like a routine. I would like get home, drink a beer, get on the laptop, like just go through all of these Western states to find these scenes and these pictures that some are known, others are lesser known. And I do think that with that book, one of the things I'm proud of is that there are pictures that I don't think anyone would come across otherwise. They were just tucked away somewhere in the digital archives, and then they get this home in a context that I think is compelling.
No, it's cool. Last year, I heard Mike Mandel and him and Larry Sultan did this book Evidence, because I didn't know that was a thing you could do. Like you could just take the photos from the Library of Congress and kind of create your own thing.
Totally. Evidence is a classic. Yeah. And that got reissued.
Yep.
It's I mean, and then Sam Contis did it with Dorothea Lange specifically with her book Day Sleeper. I'm trying to think.
Because that's something you do on your Instagram. I notice a lot. Like I don't think you've done a lot lately, but you'll kind of just share work that like you're inspired by other photographers, like sometimes, which is cool. Yeah. So you still love consuming a lot of photography and like,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's like I said earlier. To me, it's like literature. It's like it's we need it, man. It's like more than just like it's. I think it's one of the heavy hitters for like what moves me and what keeps me going and fills me up. Yeah.
So outside of your own book, what was the last book that like really kind of resonated with you think, photo book wise?
Am I allowed to say Dog Breath by Matthew Genetempo?
Okay, not in the nobody in the Trespasser family. That was a good book, though. Shout out, Matt.
This year, Mike Brody's book.
Oh, yeah.
Failing is just heart-wrenching and epic. And
yeah, because he kind of like disappeared from that first book, the train hopper one or whatever.
Yeah, I think he went on to go be a diesel mechanic, and he moved to
See,
Tennessee
that's dope, man. I love that shit.
Yeah, I met him briefly in Paris. Fascinating guy. But yeah, I like that one a lot. What else did I like? This is like hilarious because once we stop recording,
you'll think of like 900 books.
Waterfall of them.
Yeah. And if you're looking for photo books, you can go to Baltimore Photo Space. A great
Ruth Laura Manetti's book. I Imagined It Empty. Do you know this work?
No.
She's amazing.
What was the
she
book
was here
about?
the other night. It's like her portrayal of domestic life and the lot of self-portraits and still lifes of the tops of tables, and it's stunning.
All right,
it's really beautiful work.
I'll check that
and
out.
It has like an old like it feels like an aesthetic from another time. It feels just like a.
But it was shot like recently.
Yeah, it was shot within the last couple of years, but it has like this folk life feeling to it or something.
Nice.
In this old wooden house upstate. And she's just the most delightful person in the world, too. She just has this presence that's very lovely.
Nice. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. And last year, you did a book called Vandals, which was like movie set stills from that movie Bike Riders that came out last year, which was kind of inspired by Danny Lyon's old book, The Bike Riders. What was that experience like? Had you met Danny prior to work on this project? And like,
I asked him a question in a Q&A in Houston long time ago, but no, I hadn't properly met him. And then even during the production, I didn't meet him. He was just he could be consulted by phone if needed, but he was on set briefly, and I wasn't there on those days. I was the specials photographer.
Okay.
Yeah, so I wasn't like the unit still photographer. That was Kyle Kaplan, who became a bud, which is great because I think a lot of people could have been very territorial with another photographer there.
Yep.
And he welcomed me with open arms and was really cool. So shout out to Kyle.
Because it was like so it was like they brought you on knowing they were going to do that book Vandals pretty much like.
With movie people, that you never know what's going to happen. I remember talking to Tom about it, and he was like, "I think the chances of an actual book being made are pretty fucking low."
Yeah.
So I was like, "Yeah, but whatever. I'll get the day rate for the week and a half I'm there, or whatever. Then maybe we'll get some cool pictures. So let's give it a shot." And then when I got to set, there was kind of confusion about what my role was, and I got to know Sarah Green, the producer of the Bike Riders, who worked with Jeff Nichols. On all his films, Mud and Midnight Special, Take Shelter, just making really cool stuff. And she'd worked with Terrence Malick too. So I got to really geek out with her about what it was like to be on set of The New Life, of The New World, and all of his just like more recent movies. Just, he's such an icon to me. Anyway, so she's telling me, here's what I need from you. I need you to take pictures on set that look like they're Danny Lyon's photos. Right? I mean, that's the whole thing. I got a 35 millimeter camera and I have to take pictures in his style because there was a scene at the end of the film where he's in his darkroom and there's going to be a shot of all the pictures that the character Danny made in the film. But the Danny, it was, what's his name? Amazing actor. He was just in that movie Challengers. Again, my mind's blanking when it should be on. Not enough espresso, I suppose. I should have taken Lisa's
names, man. I can't remember.
Anyway, great actor, but he wasn't really taking pictures. You know, he was just acting. So I had to go and take these pictures, and then Sarah's like, "We need this kind of a portfolio of images for this." And she's like, "You have like 4 days." I was like, "Well, Danny Lyon had 4 years." So it was really daunting. And then I just had fun with it. It's like I was never going to duplicate the Bike Riders. That was a masterpiece of the 20th century. And
so you were shooting 35 because you don't normally shoot 35. So that those photos in that book are
no. A lot of them are digital, made to look 35. But because when sound's rolling, yeah. And the other thing, I mean, you were gassing me up earlier talking about, oh, you got all this success and it feels good. But as a photographer on a film set, it is the most humbling experience.
Oh yeah, you're like the trash in the corner.
My name wasn't even on the call sheet because I wasn't on the union or whatever. They're just like, yeah, we'll leave him off. So normally it's like my name's top of the call sheet. Now it's like non-existent. no one knows who I am.
No.
And it's just like, everyone's there to make a movie. No one wants to get their picture taken. So I'm like the Jehovah's Witness on film set.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, can I interest you in a picture? But I got one day in like 10 minutes, 15 minutes with each cast member for like I guess it was called the Galleries Day. This is the Cinema Talk kind of term for it. And that was cool. I got to bust out the 4 or 5 on that day.
Okay.
And then Austin Butler, it was really nice. He's like one of these guys who just really likes doing what he does.
Yeah.
He likes being photographed. He's just basking in the fame. Like he's in it in a really positive, good way. Conversely, Tom Hardy refused to be photographed at all. So.
Oh yeah. He don't like photo. Yeah.
No. I mean, God bless him. Like he's enormously talented, and actors can do what they want, you know. But I remember looking at another photo book, and he wrote the intro to it because he had made some bond with a photographer, but he started it out by saying like, let me get this off my chest. Like, I hate photographers. And then going in and saying, okay, but this guy I worked with was all right, or whatever it was. But yeah, I just didn't talk to him. And then it was just like
whatever.
Just
is what it is.
But you get to hang out with Austin Butler and the other cool folks. So yeah,
and I know talking to you before, like you got to kind of know Danny Lyon a little bit.
Yeah. So I met Danny. I was traveling through New Mexico, and he had a show up in Albuquerque, and I said, hey, Danny, I had to like copy you for this movie. It's been a really interesting journey. If you're around, I'd love to meet you. And he met me at the museum, and we talked for hours. And then I stayed at his house the next time through, invited him to Texas to do a talk, and he was really eager to do that. So we're buds. We text all the time and stuff. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's a really great dude. He's just that's the other thing. Just me, like going back to what we were saying about the value of life as a photographer. You get to meet this. I mean, he's
legend,
he's like he's a legend, and he's like nuts in the best way. Like he's just such a cool dude. So
is he still taking pictures?
Dude, he's 80 something years old, and he has double the energy and the vibrancy that I do. When I first met him, he wanted me to drive him to Mississippi to photograph some gospel singers because Nancy, his wife, who's also absolutely amazing, wouldn't let him drive there. So anyway, yeah, he's just the best.
I hope to be like that if I make it that far.
Yeah, he's publishing a new book called Junk, American Ruin, old pictures of cars. He cracks me up every time I hang out. Yeah, he's a good one.
That's dope. And I guess to wrap up, man, like I guess anything you're excited about right now about photography, or kind of anything for the future, or what's next for you, man?
Just more exhibitions and events and things, and then I'm looking forward to go wandering around the Dakotas.
Oh, Dakotas!
Yeah, just a bunch of grass and empty places.
Nice. And any Trespasser releases this year? You think new books or?
I'll probably hold off on
that
because we are not real publishers, and things take for fucking ever.
Okay.
So we don't want to.
All right. Follow him on Instagram, and you can stay tuned.
Sign up for our newsletter, please.
Okay.
Yeah. We're trying to get in the newsletter game. You know,
I love a good newsletter, man.
We didn't do it forever. It was just like, why you just make a post and then we sell the books. So what's with like crafting a bunch of words, and then you realize that
people read it.
They do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Bryan, thanks so much, man. Long time coming.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you taking time to do this.
Totally. You got it. Thanks a lot for having me. And we'll get to the talking about sandwiches next time.
Oh, yeah. And we got Alex Bregman from the Houston Astros now in the Red Sox. So thanks for that.
You know, it's going to be a funny thing because he was like that one dude who's like, you'd love to have on your team, but if he wasn't on your team, you could totally understand why everyone fucking couldn't stand him. So now to see him on the other side is we'll be interested. But
all right, thanks, man.
Cheers.
All right, so there you have it. That was the Bryan Schutmaat interview. Just want to thank Bryan so much for taking the time to come on the podcast. Like I said, I'm a big fan of his work, so it was a real pleasure getting a chance to speak with him about everything he's been working on and just kind of his approach to photography. I definitely learned a lot, so can't thank him enough. Definitely go check out Bryan's website. It's bryanschutmaat.com. You can follow him on Instagram at Bryan Schutmaat, and I believe they have a second edition of his Sons of the Living book coming out later this year by Trespasser Books, so keep an eye out for that. I'll put all the links to his website and Trespasser Books in the show notes of this episode, but definitely go give him a follow. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast with today's episode, if you enter the promo code BANTER, you'll get 2 months free of the PicDrop image transfer tool. So all you got to do is go over to picdrop.com, enter the promo code BANTER, and you get 2 months free. So definitely go give it a try and let me know what you guys think. And also, I just want to mention, if you want to watch the video version of this interview, you can go over to the Photo Banter YouTube page. We'll put all the episodes on video format up there now. So definitely go give us a like, subscribe, all that jazz. That'd be much appreciated. And as always, thanks so much for listening, and take care.